spectrum because you're familiar with it.
FM radio.
FM radio, yeah, that's from 88
FM
megahertz
means
to 108
frequency
megahertz.
modulation.
And so this is the spectrum, but here you have a waterfall. You can see how it goes down here. And that shows you how the spectrum changes over time. And unfortunately my antenna, I need to add it a little bit. Okay, so now, can you see this guy here? This is speech. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Okay, also what I want to point out, because this is frequency modulation, so the speech is going back and forth, higher and lower frequencies. So here you can see that speech. This may be music here. But what I want to point out is, and by the way, here in the spectrum, each little peak here is one station as you go along. Here's a station at 94, probably a rock station or something. And what I want to show you, and I'm going to stop it for a second. Okay, so now I stop the acquisition, and I want you to see that this FM is analog, meaning it is not pulsed. So as time goes by, you can see the line is continuous. Even though it wiggles here, this is the sound, this may be speech here. This is the sound, it's continuous. When we go to our digital devices, you will see it's all chopped up. And I want you to be able to see that. And here on the oscilloscope, we will then show something else. How this is all choppy. So just commit this to memory that analog makes a smooth line. So there we are. All right. So now you understand. This is the spectrum, and this is the waterfall that shows the time evolution of the spectrum. And now I'm going to show you a Wi-Fi router, because that's one of the biggest emitter in our homes, and that's the one that you really, really want to get rid of. And I'll show you what that does. I need to change antennas because FM is so low in frequency at only 100 megahertz that the FM antenna here would not pick up 2.5 gigahertz very well. So for that, I have a smaller antenna, and you can see this looks like a clover leaf. And this is an antenna. As the frequency goes up, the wavelengths get shorter, and your antenna elements become smaller and smaller. And by the way, as we go to 5G into the 20, 30, 40, 50 gigahertz, the wavelengths is now just something like a quarter of an inch. So if you have a 5G antenna that is about this size, there can be up to even though there's a shroud in front of it, there can be up to 640 antenna elements, and that's the so-called phased array. These are individual antennas driven by individual drivers, but in a certain phase, and that's what creates the beam collimation, and then the beam steering and hopping around. Okay, so this is an antenna that is designed for, I believe, 5 gigahertz. So, and we're going to look at 2.5 gigahertz.
I'll change it.
Okay, here we go. Now I need to change my frequency. So I'm going to go up to, I know that,
It's hard to see it.
maybe I'll show you the whole frequency range so you get an overview. And also, as I increase the frequency, it's slower because it's really, now this, okay, so here are these little peaks here that you see sitting on here are all parts of the spectrum that's being picked up right now with this antenna. Now remember, this antenna does not pick up low frequency very well. So there's a lot more going on here, but this is not, the antenna is not picking up as wide a range. But you get an idea. This is 7 gigahertz, and here is this is actually 0.1 gigahertz, okay? So, but I'm going to zoom in. I happen to know that the Wi-Fi router puts out 2.4 gigahertz. So I can already zoom in. So I'm going to go to, and I'm going to measure between 2.4 and 2.5 gigahertz.
Pretty weird.
Okay, there we are. By the way, what we're picking up now you can already see how choppy this is. So these are the pulses, and this is so unnatural for us. And all of this, and by the way, this is the background. I haven't even turned this bad boy on yet. But watch what happens when I do. Notice how this is the background from all the other Wi-Fi that's going on here. So this is the power, and all I'm going to do is plug it in. Remember, nobody is using the Wi-Fi.
Here, I'll plug it in, then you can hold your mic.
Okay. So it takes a while to boot up, but look, it's already starting here. Wait, it gets better. Yes. I actually have to change my chart options here. So now I have to tweak it a little bit so you can see it better. So this is now, here you can see these pulsations, I know they're coming from them. So now the router has booted up, and what you see here, this is what the router puts out. It's about 10 pulses of very intense radiation every second, 24/7, 365 days a year, whether anybody uses it or not. And that, in my opinion, is really unacceptable. Why not program this in such a way that it listens, and if somebody wants something, then it communicates, rather than putting out all of this. Now, can you unplug it, sweetie? Then people will see the difference, and I'm going to pause it then. Okay. There you go. So this is what the router put out, and all of this is the background, because Beverly just cut the power, okay? Now, I want to show you something else, and that is the pulsation of, and that is here on the oscilloscope. This is another way of showing you what's going on there. Okay, so I'm going to plug it in. What this does is, this is another part of a prototype where this antenna is picking up everything, the entire spectrum, and then showing us the time evolution and how short the pulses are. And they can be extremely short, like in the nanosecond range. So I'm going to plug it back in. This is, by the way, this is the background. We have a relatively high background here. So where are we here? Oh, let's see. We're up. No, not yet.
There it goes.
Okay, we're starting. It's not fully booted up yet. Aha, now it's coming here. Okay, now it's running. Can you see? And by the way, it's now different channels. You can see it's slightly different. So this is the router, and look what it does. Look at these huge peaks. You see this? And that's what we're being hit with, 24/7. And here, look at this. These huge peaks.
Jesus.
And the huge peaks are from here. The the lower peaks are from ambient. So because we're in such an electromagnetic morass here, that I have to bring these sources closer to the antenna so that I can show you. But all of these high peaks here are from the router. Look, and nobody's using it.
If it's being used, is it higher?
Yes, it is. It is. But my contention is, why don't we program, and it's a matter of programming, why don't we program our devices in such a way that they are programmed in event mode, meaning they listen, meaning they don't radiate, they just listen. And if somebody wants service, then they respond. Then we would have devices that would only radiate when they're actually in use. So, okay, so here you have a lot of these pulses going on. So there you go. Okay, Beverly, could you now unplug it? Now notice when she unplugs it, the tall pulses are gone. See that? So that was from the router, and what you see here is just the background. All right. So that was the router. This is really the worst boy that you have in your home, and I highly recommend that you need a router, but you want to turn off the Wi-Fi. Okay. And by the way, you go into software and all of that, and then you click on off and so forth. You cannot trust that, because those are all soft switches. There's no hard switch anymore. The only hard switch was when Beverly actually cut the power. So with anything software, you can't trust it anymore. You click on something and you expect it to do something, but it will only do what it is programmed to do. So I tried to turn off the Wi-Fi from the router, and when I used my meter, it was still blasting away. And by the way, then I found out that if you have a Wi-Fi router that you rent from Comcast and so forth,
Yep.
oh, don't get me started on that one.
They were at my house 5 hours yesterday, trying to get my Wi-Fi turned off.
This was really quite an experience. I can only tell you, I can disable the Wi-Fi, but I cannot turn the microwaves off. Now you explain this to me. Why do they distinguish between disabling Wi-Fi and turning the microwaves off? Because I actually naively was thinking, if I disable my Wi-Fi, the radiation would also stop. No, I only disabled my Wi-Fi. I couldn't access the internet anymore, but the radiation was going on unabated.
That's right.
Agenda
Did you check
21.
into the new Cisco routers? That's what I've done.
We fought. We spent hours and hours on the phone with them. We couldn't believe that.
I know, tell me.
And so what we had to
I'm gonna
do,
buy my own.
you have to.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of anything that you rent, and by the way, that saves you also $13 a month,
15 here.
or 15 even, and you buy your own modem,
Yeah.
and then you buy your own router. And I recommend that you buy 2 boxes, not in 1 box, because then you have more flexibility. Okay? So that's what you have to do.
Is it shielded? You can't just shield it?
Well, if you shield it, it doesn't work anymore.
No, while you're asleep or when you're not.